Einstein once said, if a cluttered desk is a sign of a cluttered mind, of what then is an empty desk a sign? There are pros and cons to messes, and as Einstein suggested, there's a purpose for a cluttered desk. Messes can cultivate creativity within our daily lives. Kathleen Vohs, lead author of the Physiological Journal, and a few other researchers decided to look at this concept to see if there was a truthfulness in Einstein's statement. The researchers conducted 3 different experiments. To begin, the researchers took a large group of people and divided up the group into 2 rooms. One group was in a clean room, and the other half in a cluttered, disorganized room. In the first experiment, they brought in a list of different smoothies, and asked the people in the room to pick one, to add to a menu. The results showed that most of the people in the organized room picked options that were labeled classic, and choosing the conventional route, the safer route. However, those in the messy room chose the option that were labeled new, which showed a willingness to take a risk and to find something new. A clean room is more suited to critical thinking, the type of thinking that the left side of the brain has. A messy room is more suited to creativity, the right side of your brain. After the experiment, Kathleen Vohs said, the environment doesn't create something that isn't already there. To the extent that you're creative, it pulls it out of you. We all have different minds, and our mind is what sets up our creative thinking skills, whether we use the right side of our brain more, or if we use the left side more. As we touch, see, feel, taste, and hear things, we learn. Our brain has 2.5 petabytes of memory storage total. Paul Reber, a professor of psychology at the Northwestern University, says that 2.5 petabytes equals about 1 million gigabytes. 2.5 petabytes would be enough to hold 3 million hours of television shows. The right side of our brain is better represented by a messy room than a clean one. In the process of creative thinking, the part of our brain that relies on long-term memory is weakened. Dr. Kenneth N. Hillman, professor of neurology at the University of Florida, explains that during creative thinking, the neurotransmitter norepinephrine is reduced. This part of the brain helps retrieve long-term memories. This is reduced because new connections need to be established to come up with new and creative ideas. All of the 2.5 petabytes of memory storage is forgotten just for an instant, so something totally new and creative can emerge. Messiness allows for new connections each and every day. There are new orders to everything, and it's easier for a creative mind to work in an environment that is already prepped and ready to go. Now granted, there's a difference for those people who are more dominant in the left hemisphere of their brain. Those who fall in this category are more critical thinkers and like things organized. CNN explains that often those who do fall in this category crave organization, the exact opposite of a right brain thinker. Those who use the left side of their brain struggle more in finding the creativity in their lives. Granted, creativity is there, it's just not quite as dominant as that of a right brain thinker. The organization is perhaps one of the limiting factors that left brain thinkers use. They strive for cleanliness, and in doing so makes it harder for the transmitter to be reduced to a point where creative thinking can be allowed. As we look at both sides of the brain, we can see that there's a distinct difference between the two. However, the side of the brain that is in use is not the only factor in finding creativity within the mess. It is also the fear of messes that hold us back from reaching the peak of our own creativity. Over time, this fear of messes has grown more than ever. There's even a name for this fear, anextopia, the fear of messes or untidiness. This fear eats at many of us, and we immediately jump to the conclusion that messes are a bad thing, and that they are forms of laziness. It is a fine line we walk between being clean and having a purposeful mess. We've all been yelled at to go clean your room. It has been pounded into our heads that we must have clean areas to be successful. To find something new, we must be willing to sacrifice some manner of cleanliness. A child playing with Play-Doh will find new colors as they experiment and make messes. It is the chaos and the mess that will allow for new colors to emerge from the existing colors. While this may be putting it into simplistic matters, we can see this in our own lives. A chemist would never find new solutions and concentrations if there was no mess. However, a chemist needs to find the balance between the mess and the order. He or she needs to know exactly where each chemical is so nothing toxic or extremely explosive interacts. But the chemist must be willing to spill on his or her desk to find new and different results. Many of us, and most of us, are not at the age of playing with Play-Doh anymore, and we are not chemists. So, how would this concept apply to us? In music, we can see that each and every musician has a different style and feel to it. That music is developed through the mess. Beethoven was one of those who we know for making a mess, but also creating pieces of beautiful music. He literally cut off the legs of his piano so he could feel the vibrations in the ground. School requires a creative mind, and what better place to do it where new and different ideas are the tips of your fingers. Wherever the mess lies, there will be creativity. Ultimately, this all leads back to the idea of novelty versus convention, risk versus safety. The messier way provides a risk, but allows for new routes to be discovered. A tidy workplace is more conventional and safer, and more familiar as opposed to a mess. And as Einstein once said, if a cluttered desk is a sign of a cluttered mind, of what then is an empty desk a sign? We need to remove ourselves from this mindset and risk the mess so we aren't left with an empty desk or an empty mind.